Hello and welcome to Haunted Montreal's Spooky Story Sessions. I'm your host, Holly Rhiannon, and today I'm going to tell you all about the Saint-Jean-de-Dieu Insane Asylum. There are few places in Montreal as haunted as the Saint-Jean-de-Dieu Asylum. Founded in 1873 by the Sisters of Providence, the hospital was designed to house idiots, imbeciles, and epileptics. With a history of social exclusion, deadly fires, and debilitating treatments, the Saint-Jean-de-Dieu Asylum has been described as one of the most evil places on the island. Today, the institution operates as the Montreal University Institute of Mental Health. Over the course of its long history, the hospital has become the focus of countless reports of ghosts and reports of unexplained activity. Its story, however, begins long before the present day. Montreal's first institute for the mentally ill was the Montreal Lunatic Asylum, which opened in 1839 inside of the famous Montreal jail. Housing psychiatric patients alongside convicted criminals soon proved impractical, prompting the provincial government to subsidize the creation of dedicated private asylums. Among them were the Beauport Asylum, established in 1845, the St. Ferdinand de Halifax Asylum in 1872, the Saint-Jean-de-Dieu Asylum in Long Point in 1873, and the Protestant Hospital in Verdun in 1890. One of these institutions, Saint-Jean-de-Dieu, would become the largest and most controversial. Conceived as the biggest mental institution in Canada, it eventually grew so large that it was granted municipal status under the name Gamelin. When the asylum first opened, it was an enormous complex containing 79 private rooms, 27 wards, 2 infirmaries, 23 dining rooms, 51 bedrooms, 150 cells, and a 2-story kitchen with 5 pantries. Roughly 400 patients lived there during its early years. With locked doors and barred windows, few ever left without permission. Like many psychiatric institutions of the era, Saint-Jean-de-Dieu was shaped by the stigma surrounding mental illness. Many patients were abandoned by families, and rarely, if ever, received visitors. For some, the hospital became their permanent home, and they would ultimately die within its walls. Their bodies often went unclaimed. Under provincial law, the Sisters of Providence were required to surrender unclaimed cadavers within 24 hours to the Inspector of Anatomy. As a result, Quebec's mental hospitals became one of the principal sources of human remains for medical schools. As the years passed, Saint-Jean-de-Dieu struggled with severe overcrowding. Many patients saw a physician only infrequently after being admitted, and just 30% of those discharged were considered cured, improved, or even stable. By 1890, the institution housed 1,297 patients, cared for by the 67 sisters and approximately 100 nurses in the main building. Then, on May 6, 1890, disaster struck. A devastating fire swept through the institution, raging for most of the day and destroying the hospital. 86 people lost their lives, most of them female patients who were unable to escape. In its May 18, 1890 edition, the Dominion Illustrated reported, "The sight that met the eyes of both sane and insane was a terrible one. There were still people in the burning central and adjoining sections of the building. Some of them could be seen as they stood clasping the iron bars of the windows in their hands and rending the air with demoniacal shouts and cries, laughing, cursing, entreating, and praying, singing coarse ribald songs, gazing vacantly at the excited multitude below them, making vain endeavors to wrest the heavy iron bars from the windows. Careless and indifferent, eager and hopeful, they furnished a strange and vivid spectacle." Despite the tragedy, the institution was rebuilt over the following decade at an even larger scale. The new complex also included a railway connection, linking the hospital directly to Quebec's rail network. The expansion continued into the next century. The redesigned complex also featured an indoor trolley system, with carts running along tracks through wide corridors to transport people and supplies to its various pavilions. Despite these improvements, tragedy struck once again on the night of November 9th, 1935, when another fire broke out in one of the asylum's wings. According to the November 11th, 1935 edition of the Reading Eagle,
hospital officials said the cause of the conflagration probably would never be discovered. Firemen expressed the theory a pyromaniac inmate was responsible, but conceded that they faced an almost hopeless task in confirming this theory. 4 violently insane inmates were burned to death after the fire broke out late Saturday night when they eluded their guards and crept back to their cells in the blazing building. Another inmate died from heart disease.
Allegedly, the Sisters of Providence sought to avoid an outside investigation by arguing that the hospital formed its own municipality. At the time, Gamelin maintained its own police and fire department, despite having no permanent residents other than the institutionalized patients. As the decades passed, the hospital entered a new era of psychological treatment, one that would later become deeply controversial. Following its development in Italy in 1938, electroconvulsive therapy was introduced at Saint-Jean-de-Dieu, alongside other procedures now regarded as highly invasive, including lobotomies. The 1930s through the 1960s saw widespread psychological experimentation in psychiatric institutes around the world. Montreal was no exception. While the Allen Memorial Institute would later become infamous for the CIA-funded MKUltra experiments, Saint-Jean-de-Dieu became associated with another dark chapter of Quebec's history, the Duplessis orphans. Between 1935 and 1964, thousands of orphaned children were abandoned or entrusted to the state by parents or other family members. They were raised in institutions such as orphanages, nurseries, and psychiatric hospitals operated by Catholic religious orders. The children would become known as the Duplessis orphans after Premier Maurice Duplessis' government reclassified them as psychiatric patients, allowing institutions to receive larger federal subsidies. As a result, countless children with no diagnosed mental illness were confined in psychiatric facilities. Among them was Joseph Martin. According to the June 2006 edition of Freedom magazine, Martin was 5.5 years old when his parents placed him in Montreal's Buissonnet Institute in 1938. He was later transferred to Saint-Jean-de-Dieu, where he remained until 1956. Martin recalled that upon arrival, the children were stripped of their personal belongings, including jewelry, clothing, pictures of cherished relatives, money, and identification. He also claimed to have witnessed extreme abuse inside the institution. Martin alleged that in 1941, he saw a 10-year-old boy beaten to death by 2 guards. He further claimed that some guards sexually assaulted younger inmates and that children were subjected to medical experimentation and even organ harvesting. The article stated,
"For years, according to Martin, 3 children each week were victims of operations during which vital organs such as hearts, lungs, kidneys, and livers were cut out and sold in the United States. A gray and black refrigerated vehicle transported the organs."
Martin claimed the mutilated remains were placed in cardboard boxes before being burned in an incinerator or buried in what became known as the Pigsty Cemetery. One explanation for that name is that the Sisters of Providence raised pigs and other farm animals nearby. Another, far more disturbing theory appeared in the February 7, 2024 edition of Mohawk Nation News, which claimed the cemetery was called the Pigsty because dead children were allegedly fed to pigs. More than 2,000 bodies were buried in the Pigsty Cemetery before it closed in 1958. The site was excavated in 1967, so the remains could be buried elsewhere, but not all were recovered. Additional human remains were uncovered in 1975 during the construction of an SAQ warehouse, with further discoveries made in 1999 during an expansion of the warehouse parking lot. Amid growing controversy surrounding the institution's past, the hospital was renamed twice. In 1975, Saint-Jean-de-Dieu became Louis-Hippolyte Le Fontaine Hospital, before adopting its current name, the Institut Universitaire en Santé Mentale de Montréal, in 2013. In 2019, Concordia University graduate student Cassandra Spooner-Lockyer completed her master's thesis in anthropology, Evanescent Lives, Archival Dissolution in a Montreal Psychiatric Hospital. Her research examined the medical records of women suffering from neurosyphilis at Saint-Jean-de-Dieu during the early 20th century. She argues that both history and the hospital functioned differently for these women, whose lives, bodies, relationships, and personal stories gradually disappeared from the historical record. Among those records were accounts that today take on an unsettling tone. One patient repeatedly told doctors that she saw the dead standing by her door at night. Her experiences were dismissed by medical staff as hallucinations. Another woman admitted in 1920 was asked whether she heard voices. She replied,
"Yes, since I was last enclosed behind an iron door without a lock, they changed my feet to those of a beast and lengthened my hands."
She was diagnosed with degenerative insanity and died 2 years later at the age of 55. But perhaps the hospital's best-known haunted location is the so-called Tower of Monsters. In 2019, the Integrated University Health and Social Services Center for the eastern part of the island of Montreal published an article called "We Call It the Tower of Monsters." Marie-Ève Paradis writes,
"It was never named, unlike all the other buildings of the Institut Universitaire en Santé Mentale de Montréal. This red brick tower has long stimulated the imagination of the local population. In the 1960s, the grounds of Saint-Jean-de-Dieu, an autonomous city that included the hospital, were full of fruit trees, and the children of the neighborhood loved to exchange chestnuts. So you had to be brave to venture near the Tower of Monsters to go and get chestnuts. When they returned outside the hospital fences, the children would tell what they had seen. Shadows of deformed heads and crazy prisoners tied up or locked in cages. They had fertile imaginations."
The following year, Radio-Canada journalist Vincent Maisonneuve visited the tower to investigate its history. Among the stories he encountered were long-standing reports from local children who claimed to have seen shadowy figures and heard unexplained screams coming from the tower. As with many ghost stories, these accounts have never been proven, yet they continue to form part of the hospital's enduring folklore. Naturally, I had to visit the former asylum myself to see what remains today. Hello? Hi. Is there someone here who'd like to speak? Because if you would like to, you can do so here. See this? This little box. Just send your words through here, if that makes any sense. How many of you are here? Okay. Can you give me a number en anglais? How many of you are here? 10? Can I get a name? What is your name? Who said yes? Did I hear a Paul? There is a lady, it sounded like you said adventurous. I'd like to start with a name, if I could get one name. Hi. We're here hoping to get your story, because I think a lot of people here weren't able to tell their side of things. In one word, could one of you tell me what happened to you here? Could the lady tell me, you whispered, can you tell me what happened to you here? I didn't quite hear you. Would the gentleman like to tell me? Just try one word about what happened to you here. Are you okay with me visiting? Do you speak to people often? When was the last time you spoke with someone who was living? Let's try yes or no. Are there any children here? Me? That sounded like a child. What is your name? Vern? What is the name of one of the children here? If you're shy, don't worry. I just am here to hear what you have to say. Mon ami, does the lady, you're very friendly, but you don't want to answer questions. Is that right? Yes. That's okay. You don't have to answer questions. Are you protecting the children here? Yes. That's good. I think that's good. These children didn't have a lot of people protecting them in life. Is it a friendly place where you are now? Is the community here on your plane friendly? So the lady who's protecting the children, would you please tell me your name? You don't have to, but I'd really like to know. You're whispering. Can you whisper your name again? Could you let just the lady speak, please? If there's one person here who does want to speak, could the rest of you allow them to? You? It sounded like she said, I mustn't. Are you trying to make sure it stays peaceful here? Can you see me, or are you able to just talk through this device? Suddenly a very strong smell.
Like herbs or something.
Hmm?
Kind of an herbal smell.
Kind of agricultural.
Yeah.
Do you know what's making that smell right now?
Mm-hmm. It's stronger now. What?
Did one of you make this smell? If it's easier for you to connect with a device rather than talk, would you be able to try to connect with my hand? I felt tickles a few times on my back when I was inside. Are you able to make a feeling on my hand here, if you can see me? Are you comfortable with me being here? Yes? Oh, thank you. You just don't want to talk that much. If I were to come back here for a long time to speak with you, do you think you might feel more comfortable? What smells is that? That smell's gone. Is there more than one protector? Wait, no. Yes. I'm listening to the whispering lady. I believe you that there is more than one protector. Are you, I don't hear many children. Are you all protective of the children? It seems like even though there was a lot of evil here, there might be a kind of peace now. It feels very peaceful. Would you say it's peaceful now? What about the Tower of Monsters? Do you know that name? Do you not want to talk about it?
La tour des monstres.
So they feel very protective to me, like they're protecting something. And there's one lady whispering who keeps coming through and affirming that, but she won't talk about anything else. What? And that's okay. You don't have to speak if you don't want to, but I am just curious to know your stories. Well, this seems like a peaceful place, so there's a lot of weight to it, so I hope that you are at peace, even though you're still here. Very fast. It is a beautiful place. If you're gonna stay around somewhere, at least this treed area is not bad. Well, thank you for speaking to me, even though you didn't want to say too much. That's, of course, okay. We're going to go home, and I wish you all the best. If anyone is curious about following me, you cannot. You have to stay here. But if you'd like me to come back and talk another time, I would be happy to do so. All right? Thank you. I feel like there was a lot of French that was sort of coming through whispering that I could not possibly understand. But maybe when we listen back, someone who knows French will pick something up. While tales of hauntings have become closely associated with the former asylum, its legacy extends far beyond the paranormal. On August 15, 1961, Éditions du Jour published Jean-Charles Paget's groundbreaking book, translated to The Insane Cry for Help. After involuntarily being committed to Saint-Jean-de-Dieu, Paget documented his experiences inside the institution, describing poor living conditions, electroshock treatments, straitjackets, isolation, and the use of medication to suppress rebellious thoughts and behavior. The book sparked widespread public debate and led to a major re-examination of psychiatric care in Quebec. In response, the government commissioned the Bedard Report, which recommended the secularization of psychiatric care and deinstitutionalization of patients. The report marked a turning point in mental health treatment across the province, shifting care away from large institutions and into the community. Yet, despite these reforms and the hospital's subsequent name changes, the stories have never disappeared. Local journalist Christian Gravener once described the former Saint-Jean-de-Dieu as one of the most evil places on the island. Whether one agrees with that assessment or not, few places in Montreal have accumulated such a history of tragedy, suffering, controversy, and reported hauntings. Today, the institution continues to receive and care for patients, but the stories surrounding its past, I imagine, will never really fade. From the Tower of Monsters to reports of apparitions, phantom voices, and unexplained encounters, the former Saint-Jean-de-Dieu remains one of Montreal's most enduring paranormal legends. And that's it for this month's episode. Are you a Montreal resident or perhaps a tourist who has had a strange experience at the University Institute? If so, we'd love to know. As always, we're curious to hear your theories about what could be going on. Thank you so much for stopping by. If it's your first video, we hope you'll stick around for the next one. We post videos from Haunted Montreal in both French and English on the first Saturday or Monday of every month. If you'd like to learn more about the Haunted Montreal Tourism Company founded by the talented Donovan King, all the info is listed in the description down below, with links to purchase tickets to in-person haunted storytelling experiences. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Sarah Beaupre will have another Backstage After Dark video out on the 15th. But until then, stay spooky.